When heat doesn't just exhaust you, it can also kill you. It wasn't a sudden heart attack. It was the heat. Silent, relentless, and deadly. Mr. Ernest was 81 years old. He lived alone, like many other men his age. He was in good health, took his medicines, walked every day, and thought of himself as a strong man. But in the middle of a heat wave, he fainted while watering his plants at noon. No one saw him fall. When they found him, his blood pressure was on the floor and his heart couldn't take any more. Many people think heat only makes us uncomfortable, that the worst it can do is make us sweat. But after 60, the body changes. And what you used to tolerate can now become a real risk. The heart especially suffers in silence when temperatures rise. Heat dehydrates us, lowers blood pressure, disrupts the heart rhythm, and forces the heart to work harder to keep us in balance. The problem is, it's not always obvious. Sometimes the body warns us, but we don't listen. That's why today I want to speak directly to you, who might be feeling hot right now without realizing your body is already struggling to adapt. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 clear signs that heat may be affecting your heart. These are signs many older people ignore, and they could be the difference between a warning and a tragedy. So stay with me. Pay attention to every word. And if you recognize any of these signs in yourself or in someone close to you, don't take it lightly. But before we begin, I'd love to know something. How old are you? And from which country are you watching us? Leave it in the comments. I like to feel that I'm not speaking alone, but that we're a community that looks out for one another, listens, and keeps each other company. All right, let's get started. Sign number 1. You're short of breath even at rest. Feeling tired after walking, climbing stairs, or doing a chore is quite common with age. The body gets older, muscles fatigue faster, and the heart no longer responds like it used to. We know that. But something very different, and much more dangerous, is feeling short of breath, even while you're still. That sensation of not being able to fill your lungs properly, as if your chest were heavy, as if you had to make an effort just to breathe while sitting on the couch watching television or while talking to someone on the phone. When that happens, especially during a heat wave, every alarm should go off. Extreme heat dilates blood vessels. It's a natural reaction of the body to try to lower internal temperature. But that change makes the heart pump faster and harder to keep the blood circulating properly. For a young heart, that's not a big problem. But for a heart that already has years on it, hypertension, high cholesterol, or simply the wear of time, it can be too much. That's when the body starts sending signals. And one of the first and most dangerous is that shortness of breath without an obvious reason. I want to tell you about Mrs. Amelia, a 75-year-old woman who lived with her husband in a simple country house. She'd always been active, a lifelong homemaker, a tireless walker. But in the height of summer, during a week of extremely high temperatures, she started noticing something strange. She got out of breath just from talking. She couldn't finish a sentence without having to pause. She was breathing with effort, even though she hadn't moved at all. They thought it was the heat, that it would pass. But that feeling persisted even in the mornings, when the sun wasn't beating down yet. One night, as she sat down to dinner, she said it felt like her chest was closing. She had no pain, but she felt anxious, as if there wasn't enough air. They went to the doctor, and there they discovered her heart was working at its limit. The heat had affected her ability to regulate blood pressure, and the overexertion was causing a quiet decompensation. Fortunately, they acted in time. They stabilized her, adjusted her medication, and kept her in a cool environment for several days. But the scare taught them a clear lesson. When your body takes your breath away, it's asking for help. We often get used to discomfort. We tell ourselves, it's age, it must be the heat, it'll pass. But no. Feeling short of breath, even at rest, isn't normal. It's a sign that something isn't right, especially if that sensation comes with palpitations, cold sweat, extreme fatigue, or chest pain. If you or someone close to you starts noticing shortness of breath without exertion, don't let it slide. Don't wait for it to turn into an emergency. See a doctor, check your blood pressure, Make sure your heart isn't suffering in silence. Meanwhile, care for your environment. Stay in a cool, well-ventilated place, drink water, avoid physical effort, and pay attention to small changes. The body warns us. The trouble is, sometimes we don't listen. This is only one of the signs that can appear when heat starts to affect the heart. In the next part, I'm going to talk to you about another very common and very ignored symptom: dizziness when you stand up. And believe me, it's not just because you stood up too fast. There's much more behind it. I'll tell you in a moment. Sign number 2, dizziness or feeling faint when you stand up. Picture this. It's 3 in the morning. Outside it's hot even at night. Everything is quiet. Mr. Arthur, 79 years old, wakes up needing to go to the bathroom. He sits on the edge of the bed, stands up as usual, and suddenly, everything spins. He feels the floor move. He tries to take a step, but he can't. The room goes white, then dark, and he ends up on the floor. Luckily, he didn't break anything, but the fall left him with a bump on his head and a big lesson. Dizziness upon standing, especially in hot weather, is no small matter. In older adults, the body no longer regulates blood pressure as quickly as before. Extreme heat causes blood vessels to dilate, which lowers blood pressure even more. In addition, if we're not well hydrated, and often we aren't, the volume of blood circulating through the body decreases, forcing the heart to work with fewer resources. When an older person goes from lying down to standing, the body needs to make a quick adjustment to get blood up to the brain. But if that mechanism is slow or weakened by heat, there's a momentary drop in pressure. That's when dizziness appears, vision blurs, and you feel like your body won't respond. Many people think that's normal, that it's just part of getting older, that you only need to take it easy. And yes, you should move carefully, but you must also understand that this dizziness can be a sign that your cardiovascular system is under strain. And I don't just mean emotional pressure, but a real physical decompensation. It happened to Mr. Arthur in the middle of the night, but it also happens in broad daylight. For example, when you get up from a chair to fetch something, or when you step out from a cool room into a hot patio. The body needs time to adapt. If it doesn't get that time, you pay for it with unsteadiness, disorientation, and even loss of consciousness. There are signs you must not ignore. Seeing little lights, or your vision going blurry for a few seconds. Feeling your body tilt to one side without control. Sudden paleness. Cold sweat, even without exertion. An urgent need to sit or lean on something to avoid falling. All those symptoms are ways your body says, "I'm not managing the heat. Help me." What can you do if this happens to you? Here are some simple but very useful tips. First, don't jump up. If you're lying down, sit on the edge of the bed for a few minutes before standing. Move your feet, flex your legs, get your circulation going. Second, hydrate. Even if you don't feel thirsty. The body needs water to keep pressure stable. Especially on hot days, don't wait until your mouth is dry. Drink small sips of water throughout the day. Third, avoid the hottest hours. Between noon and 5 in the afternoon, try to stay in a cool place, in the shade or with ventilation. Even indoors, the air can get heavy. Use a fan or open windows on opposite sides so air can flow. And lastly, listen to your body. If you start getting dizzy often, if it's getting harder to move safely, don't normalize it. Talk to your doctor. You may need to adjust your medication or get a general checkup. Sometimes those little dizzy spells are warnings before something more serious. Sign number 3, irregular or fast heartbeats for no apparent reason. When you're moving, it's normal for your heart to speed up. Walking, climbing stairs, even getting excited can increase your heart rate. But what happens when your heart starts pounding for no reason? When you're sitting quietly, doing nothing, and suddenly you feel as if your chest is thumping from the inside. That, dear listener, isn't normal, and even less so in the heat. Rising body temperature makes the heart work harder. That's natural. When the body heats up, it needs to regulate its temperature. To do that, it dilates blood vessels, activates sweating, and speeds up blood flow. The problem? That extra effort falls directly on the heart. In older people, this adjustment can become a dangerous burden. An 80-year-old heart doesn't respond like a 30-year-old one. And when the heat tightens its grip, that heart may start sending signals many ignore or confuse with anxiety, tiredness, or simple nerves. A clear example is what happened to Mr. Sebastian, an 80-year-old gentleman who lived with his wife in an apartment without air conditioning. It was a hot day, one of those that seem endless. Around noon, while resting in his armchair, he began to notice something strange. His heart was pounding, as if he'd been running, even though he hadn't moved at all. He felt no pain, but he did feel a kind of internal thumping, irregular, which left him uneasy. He tried to calm down, to think of something else, but the pounding didn't ease. On the contrary, it seemed to speed up even more. Fortunately, his wife convinced him to go to the doctor. There, they discovered that the heat had triggered a transient tachycardia, an abnormal increase in heart rate. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was a warning. His heart was overworked. This kind of reaction isn't rare. Under heat stress, the body loses fluids and becomes dehydrated, which reduces blood volume. To compensate, the heart beats faster. Add to that the effort of maintaining blood pressure and cooling the body, and the result can be an abnormal rhythm. And it's not only speeding up. Sometimes the beats become irregular, as if the heart skipped a beat or fell out of rhythm. That odd sensation of hard thumps or palpitations shouldn't be ignored. What should you do if this happens? First, keep calm. Breathe deeply and try to sit or lie down in a cool, ventilated place. Don't panic, but don't take it lightly either. Second, avoid heavy meals, especially during the hottest hours. Digestion demands blood, adding more strain to the heart. Choose light foods, fruit, salads, and plenty of water. Third, never expose yourself to the sun between noon and 5 in the afternoon. Those hours are the most dangerous for the cardiovascular system. If you need to go out, do it early in the morning or after sunset, always with a hat, light clothing, and in the shade. And lastly, if palpitations persist, or if they come with dizziness, chest pain, or difficulty breathing, seek medical help immediately. Better safe than sorry. The heart is a wise muscle. It doesn't complain without reason. If it starts beating abnormally, it's telling you something. Listen to it. Protect it. Sign number 4, swelling in legs or ankles. One summer afternoon, Clara, a 73-year-old woman, looked at her feet and was stunned. She could barely recognize them. They were swollen, red, and had a burning sensation she'd never felt before. It must be the heat, she thought. She lay down, propped up her feet, and waited for it to pass. But that night, when she took off her sandals, she noticed she could hardly remove them. The swelling wasn't just still there. It was worse. What happened to Clara isn't an isolated case. In hot weather, many older adults notice their ankles, feet, or legs swell, even if they haven't been walking much. It's one of those signs people tend to ignore or treat with home remedies, but it may be warning of something much deeper. With heat, the body retains more fluid. It's a natural response. It tries to conserve water to regulate internal temperature. But when the circulatory system isn't working at 100%, as often happens in older adults, that fluid doesn't distribute well and ends up pooling in the lower limbs. This is known as peripheral edema. Meanwhile, the heart does what it can. If there's a pre-existing condition like heart failure, hypertension, or varicose veins, the effort doubles. Venous return, that is, the body's ability to bring blood back from the feet to the heart, becomes slower, heavier. That's when fluid stagnates in the ankles, the feet, even the calves. This swelling isn't just a cosmetic nuisance or a passing discomfort. It's a silent warning that the cardiovascular system is being overtaxed. Sometimes it comes with a feeling of heaviness, heat in the legs, or even night cramps. And many people, like Clara, don't pay attention until it becomes a more serious problem. In Clara's case, when she saw the doctor, they discovered her heart wasn't pumping strongly enough, and the heat was worsening her circulation. They prescribed a gentle treatment, dietary changes, and a few simple recommendations that made a big difference. If you also notice your ankles or legs swelling more than usual during the summer, here are some things you can do. Raise your legs several times a day. You don't have to lie completely flat. It's enough to recline for a while and elevate your legs with a couple of pillows. That promotes venous return. Avoid spending many hours sitting or standing in the same position. Even at home, move a little from time to time. Movement is health for circulation. Hydrate. It may sound counterintuitive, but drinking enough water helps your body avoid unnecessary fluid retention. Use light compression stockings if your doctor recommends them. These help prevent blood from pooling in your extremities and effectively reduce swelling. Always seek advice if the swelling persists, worsens, or comes with other symptoms like pain, warmth in the area, redness, or difficulty walking. It may be a sign of something more serious that needs attention. Remember, the body doesn't retain fluid on a whim. It does it because something isn't flowing as it should. And in older adults, that's often directly related to cardiovascular health. Don't ignore it. The silent danger, when there are no symptoms until it's too late. So far, we've talked about clear, visible signs, the ones the body throws out like warning shouts, shortness of breath, dizziness, palpitations, swelling. But what happens when there are no symptoms? What happens when an older person feels nothing unusual, until suddenly they decompensate? Sadly, that's common. And perhaps the most dangerous scenario. Heat doesn't always show up as obvious discomfort. In many cases, especially in older adults, effects accumulate quietly. The body starts to fail little by little on the inside without raising suspicion. Some people feel fine, until they suddenly collapse. This is because certain risk factors act silently, especially in older adults. Hypertension, for example, can be present for years without symptoms. The same happens with diabetes, which damages blood vessels and alters the perception of heat and thirst. Even some medications, like diuretics, blood pressure drugs, or those that regulate heart rhythm, can affect the body's ability to adapt to heat. Let me tell you about Mr. Matthew, an active man, 82 years old. He walked every morning, ate well, didn't smoke or drink. He was, as many said, an example of healthy aging. During a very hot week, he stayed home to avoid the sun. Everything seemed normal. He slept more than usual, but they attributed that to the weather. One day he stopped answering the phone. His grandson went to check on him and found him fainted, dehydrated, with his blood pressure on the floor and his heart working at the limit. There had been no prior signs, only the heat. Silent, cumulative. Mr. Matthew's body had been struggling internally for days without any visible symptom, until it couldn't anymore. That's why, even if you don't feel unwell, it's essential to pay attention to the smallest details. Here are some simple but valuable tips. Check your blood pressure at least once a day during heat waves. You can do it at home with an automatic cuff. If you see it's lower than usual, especially if you already take medication, talk to your doctor. Check your heart rate. At rest, it should be between 60 and 100 beats per minute. If it's consistently high or irregular, it deserves attention. Observe your body. Are you urinating less? Is your skin dry? Do you have less appetite? Are you sleeping more than usual? All of these are signs that something may not be working well. Don't trust the "I'm fine." Many older people say that out of habit, to avoid worrying others, or because they truly don't perceive what's happening inside their bodies. And most importantly, don't wait for symptoms to take care of yourself. Prevention is your best ally, especially when it comes to heat and a heart that has already worked hard in life. Common mistakes that raise risk without you realizing. Sometimes the greatest dangers don't come from what we don't know, but from what we think doesn't matter. Small mistakes, lifelong habits, everyday gestures that, under the summer heat, can become real health risks, especially for the heart. Many older people repeat phrases like, "I don't get thirsty," "I'm used to the heat," or "heat has never harmed me." But with time, the body changes. What used to be tolerated without trouble can now take its toll. One of the most common mistakes is not drinking enough water just because you're not thirsty. With age, the sense of thirst weakens. The body needs hydration, but it doesn't always ask for it in time. Many people become dehydrated without realizing it, and that directly affects blood pressure, heart rhythm, and the body's thermoregulation. Another mistake is wearing very tight, dark, or synthetic fabric clothing, especially indoors. Aesthetics, habit, or simple oversight often take priority. But on hot days, clothing should help the body breathe, not trap heat. Synthetic garments block perspiration, trap heat, and raise the risk of decompensation. And then there are household chores. Simple activities that, when done under the sun or in hot environments, turn into excessive effort. I'll tell you what happened to Mrs. Helen, 77 years old. She was very active, the kind who can't sit still. On a scorching day, at 2 in the afternoon, she decided to go out to the yard to sweep dry leaves. Just a few minutes, she thought. She spent more than half an hour out there, under the sun, wearing a thick fabric hat, without drinking water. When she returned indoors, she started to feel unwell. Headache, cold sweat, pounding heartbeats. She sat down and couldn't get up without help. She had a mild heat stroke, but her heart was already on alert, and all because of a chore that seemed harmless. Here's a list of everyday mistakes that can raise risk without you noticing. Not hydrating frequently. Don't wait to feel thirsty. Drink water every 1 or 2 hours, even just small sips. Consuming drinks that dehydrate, like too much coffee or caffeinated sodas. Water should always be your first choice. Wearing heavy, tight, or dark-colored clothing. Choose cotton fabrics, loose garments, and light colors that reflect the sun. Cooking during the hottest hours of the day. Kitchen heat adds to ambient heat and can decompensate you without you noticing. Exercising or doing housework at the wrong times. If you need to move, do it early in the morning or at dusk. Not ventilating rooms well. A closed space without airflow can raise body temperature without you realizing. Not resting enough. Sleeping poorly or too little weakens the body and makes it more vulnerable to heat. Remembering all this isn't exaggerating. It's caring. It's learning that at this stage of life, every decision counts. Heat doesn't forgive carelessness, but with simple habits, we can stand up to it. Simple tips to protect your heart on hot days. We've talked a lot about signs, risks, and the mistakes we make without realizing. But now comes the most important part. What you can do at home to protect your heart when the heat is on. Because it's not about being afraid, it's about having tools. And today I want to give you the simplest and most effective ones. The first, and perhaps most important, is hydration. Many older adults don't drink enough water. As we said, with age, the sense of thirst decreases. But that doesn't mean the body doesn't need water. Ideally, drink at least 1.5 liters of water a day in small sips without waiting to feel thirsty. You can leave a visible bottle in several corners of the house, in the kitchen, next to the armchair, on the nightstand. And if you don't like plain water, add a few drops of lemon or have unsweetened cold infusions. Avoid very sugary drinks, too much coffee, or caffeinated sodas. They can dehydrate you more than you imagine. Another simple and very effective tip is using fans or damp cloths. If you don't have air conditioning, don't worry. A fan with the window slightly open can work wonders. You can also wet a cloth with cold water and pass it over your nape, wrists, or ankles. The relief is immediate. And don't forget foods that help maintain good circulation and care for the heart. Fruit like watermelon, melon, and grapes not only hydrate, they're also rich in potassium, an essential mineral for fluid balance in the body. Leafy greens, tomatoes, cucumber, raw carrots. All of these help keep you cool, light, and energized. Avoid very salty or greasy meals. Remember that heavy digestion raises body temperature and demands more from the heart. Now, it's also important to adjust your daily routine. It's not about stopping what you enjoy, but adapting it to the weather. Take short naps after lunch. The body recovers from heat better when it can rest a few minutes in a cool room. Shower with lukewarm water, never very cold. Although a cold shower seems refreshing, it can cause a sharp change in body temperature and affect blood pressure. Avoid going out into the sun between noon and 5 in the afternoon. If you have to do something outside, do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon, with light clothing, a hat, and sunscreen. And lastly, I invite you to create a small heat plan at home. You don't need anything fancy, just organization. Write down your water drinking times on a sheet of paper. Keep emergency numbers at hand. Each morning, prepare a tray with fresh fruit and water. Talk with your family so they call or visit on the hottest days. And most importantly, don't isolate yourself. Talking to someone and sharing how you feel also helps the heart. Taking care of yourself on hot days doesn't require big sacrifices. Just attention, self-kindness, and small gestures that can make a big difference. How to spot signs in your older loved ones. This video is meant for you who may already be over 60 or 70, but it's also for those who care for, accompany, or simply worry about their older loved ones. If you have a father, a mother, a grandparent, a neighbor who lives alone, this part is for you. Because many times they won't say they feel unwell. They don't want to bother. They don't want to seem weak. They don't want to worry anyone. But the body speaks. We just need to learn to listen. On hot days, there are signs that don't show up directly, but you can notice them if you pay attention. Here are some of the most important. Sudden mood changes, irritability, confusion, or low spirits without an obvious cause. Excessive fatigue, if they complain of being very tired even without exertion. Cold sweating or very dry, hot skin, especially on the neck, armpits, or face. Decreased appetite or water intake. Trouble sleeping, or the opposite, excessive daytime sleepiness. Withdrawal, if they stop answering calls, don't leave their room, or grow quieter. Sometimes a simple, "How are you?" isn't enough. It's important to observe and ask with more detail. Have you had any water today? Have you eaten something? How did you sleep last night? Did you feel dizzy or have palpitations? Are you urinating normally? This isn't about interrogating them, but about being lovingly close, genuinely interested, with a gaze that doesn't judge, yet stays alert. Let me tell you the story of Lucy, a 55-year-old woman who cared for her 85-year-old mother. One especially hot summer, her mother started seeming more down, spoke little, and spent more time in bed. Lucy thought it was just the heat. "She's tired, like everybody," she said. Until one day when she went to visit, she found her dehydrated, with very low blood pressure and a racing heart. She had suffered a silent heat stroke. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for help. She just endured, until her body couldn't take any more. What Lucy regrets most to this day wasn't the situation itself, but having had the signs in front of her and not recognizing them in time. Staying attentive isn't invading. It's caring. It's loving. And you don't have to be a doctor or live in the same house. Sometimes a phone call, a video call, or a short visit can make the difference. If you see an older person start acting differently on hot days, don't minimize it. Don't say, "It'll pass," or "It's age." Maybe it is. Or maybe their body is asking for help. Listening to your body can save your life. Today we've explored together a topic that might seem simple, but has deep implications. How heat affects the heart, especially after 60. And the most important part, how our body warns us, if we're willing to listen. Let's recap. First, we talked about that shortness of breath even at rest, a sign not always linked to heat, but one that may indicate the heart is struggling to keep balance. Then we saw dizziness or feeling faint upon standing, a clear warning that blood pressure may be dropping because of heat and dehydration. Next, we addressed palpitations or irregular heartbeats for no apparent reason, a very common phenomenon when the body overheats and the heart has to work faster than normal. And finally, we mentioned swelling in legs or ankles, another quiet symptom that the circulatory system isn't functioning well, partly due to fluid retention worsened by high temperatures. 4 signs. 4 ways the body whispers that something isn't right. And at the end of the day, no one knows your body better than you. Don't ignore its whispers. Don't underestimate its signals. Don't normalize what doesn't feel normal. I learned to listen to my heart, not only its beats, also its silences, its warnings, its calls for attention. And that changed my life. Because at this stage, it's not about doing more, but doing what's just right. Living calmly, attentively, with self-kindness. And if something doesn't feel right, you have to say it. You have to ask for help. You have to act. I want to close this video with a sincere invitation. Leave me a comment telling me if you've ever felt any of these signs on very hot days. Maybe you never made the connection. But today, hearing this, something clicked. Share it with me. I'd love to read you. And if you know an older person, a father, a mother, a grandparent, an aunt, or a friend, share this video. It could be the warning they need. It could be the message they still have time to hear. Thank you for staying until the end. And remember, you're not alone. Here we talk about health, about experience, from heart to heart. Until next time.